2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of attending the TWU spring graduation. After 2 years of online graduations, courses, learning, and administration being conducted in a fully remote way or in a mix between remote and online, it seemed that this graduation was an island in a sea of turbulence. We have emerged from the great pandemic of 2020 with a new understanding of higher education. For some, this new understanding is one of trauma, constant change, and discomfort. Some of my colleagues have likened their experience as one of post-traumatic stress disorder. For others, the pandemic has accelerated change that was already taking place in higher education. This accelerated change has equipped the innovative university to prepare for future disruptions and to be more agile in order to provide increasingly high-quality education to growing numbers of students across the globe while keeping costs affordable to the masses. Today, we are going to discuss the hybrid campus, and I will argue that whether we like it or not, the hybrid campus is the university of the future. Universities that survive past the next decade will need to be hybrid institutions, either by strategy or by forced change. As we get into this discussion, let me provide a backdrop of where we are in higher education today by using the example of Trinity Western University, an example I'm intimately familiar with. 20 years ago, TWU was a largely undergraduate residential institution with a fixed annual schedule of classes, services, and supports that were face-to-face in nature. At that time, students would sit in long lines for registration, go to the bookstore in advance of their courses to purchase their textbooks. Their start dates were fixed around either September or January. The first week of classes would involve a library orientation where students would learn about how to take books out of the library, find articles by searching through databases, or using physical copies of citation indexes. Students would use the library to research and study, and throughout the semester, they would go to physical computer labs to do their work on desktop computers. Faculty had office hours that were designated, and students would show up for those hours. They would line up in the hallway and hand in their papers either under the faculty member's door or in boxes outside of the faculty offices. In 2002, TWU had created a new division called Global Learning Connections, and I was the Associate Dean of GLC back at that time. We were building an online system for the university. As we developed an online system using an open source platform called Jones Knowledge, we also developed a system called MyTWU, where students could meet and greet each other online in a digital interface. If you actually go back to the Innovation Series talk we had in January of 2022 with Chris Preeb, he and I discussed this interface and that time in the history of TWU. TWU was full at that time with record undergraduate enrollments and classes being offered in less than ideal spaces at less than ideal times. Now, rather than build new classes and buildings to house our bursting undergraduate population, I advocated for the development of mixed modal classes that we called half online, half physical classes. Today, we would call those classes hybrid classes. I argued at the time that if we took our most popular time slots and only allowed mixed modal classes, we could double the capacity of popular classes and class times and provide better services to students. Well, the initiative to generate faculty interest 20 years ago was largely unsuccessful. Although some faculty members used hybrid teaching for a number of years, and there was some small benefit to TWU, the university went ahead to build a large addition to one of our main teaching spaces and filled it up for the next 17 years of educational delivery. But between 2003 and 2020, much of our university changed around our classes. Course registration, adding and dropping classes, submitting course grades, all went entirely online. The library today has become more virtual than physical, and although we still have books on shelves, students rarely spend time in the physical library. It is more common for them to search databases for research from their home or in their dormitories, and to use the Learning Commons, which is now the main floor of the library, as a space for collaboration and learning engagement, rather than research. The bookstore has transitioned to a merchandise center for TWU hoodies and shirts, mugs, and paper, things students need to live their lives on campus or to show their affiliation at sporting events, but not textbooks. Most students today access digital copies of textbooks, rent their textbooks, or buy them online through Amazon or other suppliers. The registrar's office remains open during the day, but most students on campus don't even know where it is. Much of the registrar's work is carried out online, where students and faculty can submit forms, waive prerequisites of classes, and conflicts for students can be managed. Faculty can submit and students can view their grades in this online platform. And the online learning system we use, Moodle, is a community-sourced system that is hosted off-campus by a third-party provider using the BCNet system. Sure, we create and manage courses and interface with our registration and payment system, but we are no longer in the process of maintaining our services for our own online learning system. Although we have developed a host of disparate online systems and services over the past 17 years, what we learned through our experience in the past 3 years of the pandemic is that Trinity Western University can function in a fully online way. In 2015, Ryan Craig wrote a book on the changes that will impact higher education into the future, entitled College Disrupted: The Great Unbundling of Higher Education. On page 9 of this book, Craig argues that traditional universities are based on increasing their brand through increasing the 4 R's: rankings, research, real estate or location, and raw, sports, clubs, and other identifiable features of the university. But Craig goes on to argue that there is an unbundling happening in education that will change the very nature of the universities. Now, industries have become unbundled for the past 30 years, and with this unbundling of services and systems, there has been the introduction of smaller, more niche service companies to take over parts or components of the university's service provision. Unbundling of education is the next stage toward creating the hybrid campus of the future. Universities of the future will need to be very clear about their value proposition and invest heavily in the aspects of their service that add value, but will also need to allow other providers to provide services that can be vertically integrated into a holistic student experience at lower cost to the institution, providing higher overall value. What we learned throughout the pandemic is that universities can operate in fully online terms and continue to provide a breadth of service to their constituents. Now, I'm not saying that the online experiment that the pandemic brought on was perfect by any means. But what we experienced is a university able to operate in a fully distributed way. An article published in Harvard Business Review by Salingo and Clark in October 2021 imagined what the hybrid campus would look like. This is a long quote, but it provides an understanding of what we mean when we talk about the hybrid campus. And here's the quote. The hybrid campus, as we are calling the concept, transcends our current idea of blended education into a more holistic vision for delivering everything an institution offers, from academic advising to courses and career services. An opportunity exists for institutions to harvest their new investments and learning in digital technology to enhance the student experience and the shift to more remote work. If done correctly, this approach could make institutions more student-centric and ensure their sustainability. What's critical here is for the physical and the virtual to complement one another, not to create separate domains or identities for the institution, unquote. In late 2021, the Deloitte Center for Higher Education Excellence released a report entitled The Hybrid Campus: 3 Major Shifts for the Post-COVID University, where the authors argued that COVID-19 presented a particular inflection point in higher education that will forever change our concept of university and will push all institutions to fully embrace the concept of the hybrid campus. They argued that 3 key initiatives will drive this push as institutions emerge from the pandemic. First, there will be a rethinking of the entire academic portfolio. Academic calendars will be revised. Governance processes will have to be faster and more adaptive. Quality will have to be balanced against market need and action. Universities will need to rely on collaboration and partnerships more than ever to recruit students, provide services, and ensure that investments are not made in weak or poorly performing academic areas on campus that can be outsourced to other institutions or online platforms. But fundamental to the hybrid university is to fully understand when face-to-face meetings and classes are required and when classes and meetings can be facilitated by non-faculty educators or even peers of students, and when we can offer a blend of online and face-to-face instruction. Second, there will be a fundamental rethinking of work, where we work, what hours work means, how often we come into the physical workspace, and how we function in our work. To be honest, I face this question about work almost every day from my staff. Colleagues will say to me, "I worked great at home during the pandemic and I got all my work done. Why do I have to come to campus every day to do my work?" Others have argued that they can save time and money on travel, have better work-life balance, and even protect the environment through a more flexible work schedule using Zoom or Teams or other collaboration platforms to get work done. It is hard to argue with my colleagues on these matters. Third, the hybrid university will force us to think about student services in a new way. The millennial learner wants 24/7 responsive action by the institution. This is a difficult responsibility to place on employees who also want work-life balance. The solution may come from the hybrid campus, where artificial intelligence can be integrated with our websites to respond to 80 to 90% of the questions students and faculty ask. Intelligent design and integration of our digital assets can help us to guide students through standard processes like registration, payment, course navigation, collaboration with faculty and peers, without requiring face-to-face connections in real time. As we transition toward the hybrid campus, we need to really think about what has to be presented to students, faculty, and staff in a physical and synchronous way, and what can be provided to students, faculty, and staff using collaborative partners through technology at a distance or in an asynchronous way. At Trinity Western University, we are well on our way to truly becoming a hybrid campus. Today, library databases and search systems, bookstore services, registration, payment, and course management are all conducted online. Most students and faculty work over email or through social media or online portals to communicate, exchange documents, conduct research and collect data, and provide consultations and office hours. We are also developing out new services such as the Connected Campus System, the Student Service Hub, and the Center for Calling and Career Development, where we will increasingly be able to serve students both in physical and digital formats. Now, just to be clear, the hybrid campus requires both a strong physical campus experience and a strong virtual campus experience that integrate into a single, robust learning ecosystem. Finally, we are increasingly providing courses in online and hybrid ways to ensure that students experience academic continuity wherever their life takes them. The future of the truly hybrid campus will continue to take work from all of us. Universities like Trinity Western University will need to work on relaxing traditional bureaucratic systems to allow for more flexibility of curricula and services. We will have to learn how to more intentionally measure the performance of workers. And rather than using time at work as the sole measure of work, we will need to use outcome measures and data to understand whether people are getting the job done. Our campuses will become places where hybrid work and life can really take place together. We'll have to establish learning pods for employees, faculty, and students, where they can transition from face-to-face classes and meetings to online classes, meetings, and experiences seamlessly while being able to retain a measure of privacy. Finally, universities like Trinity Western University will need to create nodal centers, like the Trinity Western University FAR Centers, where students from around the world can participate actively in a learning community from wherever they are. Or work on the Global Express pathway and other means of providing engagement and belongingness of students within virtual spaces will continue to present our students with an agora, a place of connection and engagement where we will be able to innovate together, distributed all around the world and interconnected in digital ways to produce rich learning communities. To truly become the hybrid university of the future, we will need to fully embrace both face-to-face and online work and life in both synchronous and asynchronous frameworks in an intentional learning ecosystem where the student, their experience, their learning, and their development truly resides at the very center. Thank you.